Do you
How
have
are
the
you?
clap or something,
I did
Blaise?
clap.
Oh, you do clap. You don't have the clap. Okay. Ha 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 ha.
You are so funny.
I am pretty fucking
How you
hilarious.
doing?
I'm good.
Good.
How you doing?
I'm doing good.
It's been a hot minute.
It has been a high minute, but I feel like we're ready to roll. We've been doing lots. Selling houses, looking for a new production
Okay.
place, etc.
How's that going, by the way?
Uh, yeah, ask me later. It all fell apart. Too many things fell apart.
Sad. Sad.
The
Life happens.
The house sold twice, but twice they backed out. One of them. We don't want to talk about that.
That's boring stuff.
I'm glad though because I'm not ready. I wasn't ready to leave her. She's my baby, so I want to stick with it. But anyway, we're doing Fleabag. We're kind of breaking our. We'll do series every now and again, but mainly we want to stick to doing films, movies, and but I had ulterior motives to doing this. This will complete our women in film series. We're doing 3 episodes on it, and this is the final episode for now.
Well, I was gonna say I was thinking about that earlier. I'm like, well, I don't think it's a definitive end to it. I'm sure we're gonna come across movies.
Absolutely, but we did want to focus.
Sure, like do a little, like just a segment
Yeah,
just of that.
right. And I do it in my classes, and we also had done, or the audience will know, you all will see that we did 2 back-to-back that are just brawny men. And then I do it in my classes. I focus a segment. I want to teach just women's studies in film, and there's plenty of material. And like I'm sure I mentioned in another one, there's been a big change, I think, and a needed change of everything from female directors, writers, etc. And I think that's a good thing. And so I chose Fleabag because I just the writing to me is incredibly fresh. It's some of the best, if not the best, writing that's out there. What'd you think?
I don't think I was captivated as much by it like you were.
Okay.
But again, this is something we talked about off camera. So this is a British comedy / drama. So it's not. So there's comedy in it, but it's not just comedy. But the thing with that, if we just kind of take the comedy aspect of it, what I said to you was, some people, especially here in the States, don't vibe with British comedy. Their sense of comedy is a little different than what we have over here. So this isn't like. And I'm not saying all of it. I'm sure there's aspects that. I mean, there's people that kind of. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm
me
trying
explain.
not to like yell at you.
I don't.
I think it just depends. I think it depends
on the person. Some people will get it and enjoy it. Some will not.
But I also think it depends on the material, meaning that not all British comedy is the same, just like American comedy is different. But regardless, I will be arguing that this is phenomenal comedy and phenomenal writing. And it can't be great writing in my mind if the comedy doesn't work.
I mean, it's very, yeah, you have your, like, situational comedy. It's not dry humor, but it's kind of.
It has a little bit
humor.
of dryness to it. I think it's quick-witted.
Quick-witted, kind of not completely deadpan, but, like, it's. That's what I've noted, at least from the comedies, British comedies that I've seen. Those are the ones that I've come across, and I'm like, oh, I mean, it's. When I first came across it, I was like, oh, it's different than like the slapstick, over-the-top, goofy stuff that we have here.
Yeah,
not to say that it's all like that, but...
I mean, there's slapstick and British stuff too, but anyway.
I mean, people have seen Monty Python.
Well, I guess we'll get into that. Do you want to give the storyline real quick? super duper quick?
Dude, I was gonna say you should probably do that because it's weird. It's very so. It focuses on this girl. I guess we call her Fleabag because she literally had. They never say her name, which I find interesting. Don't know the reason for it, but I'm sure you can explain that. And it basically goes through her everyday life with her very dysfunctional family, and she herself has issues, and she works it out. You can kind of say it in her own way of like being. I don't know.
I don't think she works it out.
I mean, she's not working it out, but it like
right.
she copes with it.
Yes, her way of coping
in her own way of
is
like
very interesting too.
Yeah, kind of being always having to make fun of the situation or like shooting in a joke to like ease the tension.
Right.
Within whenever she's interacting mostly with her sister or her family, and then she like sleeps with a bunch of dudes because she finds it. She talks about that she likes the aspect of somebody wanting her body. She talks about sex.
That's a great.
She finds that's what she wants. She wants somebody to want her body, not so much the actual feeling of sex
or any kind of love or affection. And that's what. So, her way of coping is through promiscuity, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, she's having a lot of sex, and
there's also a big part that she feel like there's a whole thing with her friend that she feels she's responsible for and therefore feels guilty for doing something.
We don't want to give the whole thing away, but absolutely. So let me just jump in there, and it's basically Fleabag. Her name is Fleabag, which that's how she thinks of herself a lot of times, and she actually says it a couple of times, how poorly she feels about herself.
Yeah.
And her family definitely treats her as, not the runt, but the, I guess, despicable one in the family.
The incapable one?
Incapable, despicable. I mean, it goes on. And we'll get into the relationship with her sister, which is really interesting. Sure. That whole arc is really cool, too. But basically, she started a cafe with her best friend, Boo, and in the course of it, where that's in the past, that's her background, and as the story starts, we don't know where Boo is, and we see all these flashbacks to her interactions with Boo, and
I'm going to jump in there and say that the first 2 episodes have those, and it's not. It kind of gave me a jolt. I was like, okay, friend, okay, not friend. The kind of like the quick, dry jump cuts.
Yeah.
I think for some people might confuse them, and it might be disorienting.
How so? Like well,
you don't know if
they're friends or
no. You know they're friends, but all of a sudden she's like, boom, talking with Boo, then boom. Because at one point it's not a jump, like a flashback. It is like, I think, a current. Maybe I still may be confused.
No, it's all jump. It's all.
So clearly it confused me. So it's a little startling because the whole show is like that. It's like jump cut to like the next scene. It's not really a smooth transition.
There's definitely a lot of jump cuts.
So it may confuse people when it comes to like the Boo story arc. But,
so this goes back to. Do you remember when we talked about You Were Never Really Here? And I loved it, and I had no issues with the jump cuts, and I think that's fresh and wonderful. And it's like, it's kind of suspense with the audience in itself. We know there's a reason to these segments of her friend Boo. But we have to figure it out as the story proceeds. And I think that's one of the freshest things in film today, that we're not spoon-fed. And you have a difference, not saying that you need to be spoon-fed, but you like a clear, I guess, order or knowledge of what is it that we're seeing. And I'm okay with that. I kind of think it's the new part of film, or how they're, editing, but it's also nice to not know every aspect of story. like your typical Freytag pyramid or triangle or whatever you want to call it. Here's the opening, etc. But anyway.
Well, I mean, I can deal. Yeah, no. Well, first off, that's the one big, huge fucking pet peeve I have nowadays is too much of like exposition and spoon feeding the audience like they're toddlers.
No, I know you know that, but I'm talking about these jump cuts in particular. I know you don't.
Yeah,
I'm not like saying this. I know.
Even though that,
but you don't like jump cuts where you don't know. Like specifically, what are we supposed to do with this? And I like it, and that's fine. I'm not saying you need to be spoon fed. I know you don't. You hate that too. So we don't need to.
I think to me, maybe too many jump cuts in this. But that's me.
I love it. Yeah, okay. That's cool. No, that's cool. So let's jump into this part because we need to. This completely breaks the third and fourth wall.
Yes.
And it's intentionally. Mm-hmm. Did you know that this was a play? So it kind of makes sense. I don't know if you knew that, but knowing that it was a play, so she used to perform this as a play, and you could imagine her facing the audience and breaking it there. So that was part of it, and she decided, I think bravely, maybe it's not brave, but I think it's brave. I'm just going to give her the credit for it, to she faces throughout the film. She looks directly at the camera to the audience and is letting them in on, and that's part of, there's so many things going on with that, and I think it's super fresh. And I think you cannot pull that off unless the writing is phenomenal. Did it irritate you?
No. You're right. It does add to the character because there's this whole thing where she puts up a front with other people, and then when she breaks the fourth wall, she actually does tell you what she's actually thinking and feeling. So yeah, you're right. If I was watching this as a play, it's completely doing like an aside to So
and it
works.
It totally works, and it happens a lot in each episode. It's at least 10 times where she's facing directly to the audience and saying, "Huh." Yeah, usually it's a comical effect where she's like, we're with her, or she's saying, did you catch that, or what an idiot, or this is ridiculous, or when she's pushing other characters. Part of her enjoys being an outsider, being a Fleabag, a person that doesn't fit with everybody else. And that's part of what she's doing when she's like addressing the audience or looking into the camera. A lot of times she doesn't say anything directly to us, but a lot of times she also does say. In the very opening of the show, she's, there's a second of her primming herself up, and she's got a jacket on, and then she faces directly to us and lets us in on what she's about to do, and it has to do with sex. She's meeting a guy.
Do you think? I literally just had this thought, so it wasn't. It just happened.
Great, I'm sure it's brilliant.
Do you think when she does the aside and like the fourth wall breaking, do you think, even though we perceive her to tell the truth, she's also playing the audience?
No,
there's part of that.
No, but there's an element. If I'm correct, I don't think she's trying to fool us in any way, but she is fooling herself often. Like one of the things this character does is she thinks she knows everything. Did you catch that? It's definitely a thread where she says, "Oh, this is going to happen," and then it doesn't happen. And then there are several times while she's breaking the fourth wall, she's telling us that a certain thing's going to happen, and it doesn't. But she also tells other characters, this is what is going to happen. An example of it is her brother-in-law. She walks in, and he's not expecting her to be there, and he's on the computer, and he's like, "Whoa, shit!" And she's like, "I guarantee." She looks to the audience, and says, "He's watching Asian gangbang," and then later we find out that she's completely wrong. Yeah. That happens quite frequently.
It does, but
she's not trying to fool the audience. She is, in fact, though, fooling herself at times. And that's what's really interesting to me. She's convinced that she knows, and she has this grip. And that's why I love it. Like I said, it happens over 10 times where she's talking directly to the audience, which is really hard to pull off, but she pulls it off brilliantly. And part of it is, it's not just a thread, it is part of her character arc, and it's a structure. It's more than a thread, it's a structure, a main aspect of both her character and the writing, the series itself. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. It's more than just a thread. It's very telling. And as that proceeds, and I don't want to ruin it, you haven't finished the second.
I've only gotten through season 3 of the second season.
And you'll see that there's like noticeable changes that happen with that breaking the fourth element. So it's a fourth wall, which is really cool. It's like, so you enjoyed that part though.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think anybody can, I don't think it'll irritate anyone. It's very fresh. Again, because the writing's good, and again because it's this. She's kind of fooling herself, but it's her way of like holding herself together. You know, she's in chaos, not constantly, but often. Her family treats her not great. They're not trying to be horrible, but they just what they feel about her. And how they do treat her, it's not great. Like, you know. I
mean, do we want to delve into that?
I don't want to say exactly. I don't want to say everything that happens with Boo because
not Boo. Yeah, we'll leave Boo out of it.
Go ahead.
Nobody puts Boo in a corner. No, the family. So the father and the sister and the stepmother.
Yeah, you know what? Before we do that, let's talk about Boo because we keep saying Boo and. Y'all out there, you're not going to know what that. So Boo's her best friend that she opens the cafe with.
Yes.
And we get these sometimes jump cuts of her. But every time that we see her and Boo, it is what you would want for any human being. It's like a loving, for the most part. There's a few that are like, you see that Boo is like in she's in a terrible state. But that's only a few of them. The moments when we see Boo with Fleabag, the protagonist, they're all loving and they're like friends that can read each other's mind, and it's wonderful. I loved every time that I saw those two together. You get this, you know, it's an uplifting, good feeling. Well, and they get along with each other. They finish each other's sentences.
Well, she was like her. She was her coping mechanism. In a way, when she was in those flashbacks, you know what I mean? She serves as her, because without her, that's why I feel a lot of the time.
I don't think it's her coping mechanism.
Not a coping mechanism, but somebody, I don't want to say therapist, but you know what I mean? Somebody who helped her throughout, kind of deal with her issues.
It was her best friend, and it was how you, like I said, how you would want any human being to be treated. They treated each other with love, and that was the main source of love that she had. But her flashbacks to her as the show proceeds, they come at moments when she's feeling guilty about something, which is very interesting. And that's, again, placement and part of the writing. It's amazing. And that's something that I wanted to talk about, too, is the pacing and the rhythm and where we place these flashbacks is incredible to the story in itself. And they always come when she's feeling guilty about something, for the most part. Not every single time. But anyway, we just wanted y'all to know that Boo is her best friend, and as the story proceeds, we realize she's not. Where is this? Where is Boo? Because we don't see her.
Yeah.
She's often at the cafe by herself. Fleabag is. It's her. So we discussed that. Jump into the family part.
Yeah, okay, so pretty quick, we find out that their mother has passed away from breast cancer, and their father ends up getting together with their godmother, who is this like self-absorbed, see you next Tuesday.
She is hilarious.
She's hilarious, but like I want to punch her. Like I want to punch the character. Like she gets under your skin. Like there's these tiny little passive aggressive. It's constantly like passive aggressive tension between her and Fleabag, and not so
Absolutely.
much Claire, because they view Claire as like the more successful one.
See, this is kind of interesting. See, this is part of what you're saying about British humor. To me,
Yeah.
that's fucking hilarious. Like, I do get irritated by her, but I don't get, like, I'm not irritated with the character. I'm not saying you're saying that.
Yeah.
But it's more humorous to me every time she does something horrible, and she does everything she says is demeaning, and, like, she puts herself ahead of everyone, and she's an incredible artist herself, and she just treats everybody else as, like,
Yeah.
they're kind of her servants.
Yeah.
I mean, clearly with Fleabag, with
Yeah.
Phoebe Waller-Bridges, she definitely treats her like a servant almost every
Yeah.
time that they have some kind of interaction. But I love it. And
I could have stood it for maybe like if it was just like a couple of times, but it's constantly, and they never address. She never confronts her. There's never a confrontation with it, which I just don't understand.
no, there is confrontation.
I mean, there is confrontations, but never verbal confrontation. You know what I mean? They never
There are-
call out. They never air out what the issue is.
No, they never get to completely air it out. But there's several times when they're starting to, and that's fascinating too. That's part of the tension. That's brilliant writing. I know what you're saying. But the father, remember, she does start to call her on it. So she'll, this stepmother that was her godmother. It's played by Olivia Colman, by the way, who is phenomenal. Do you know her as an actress?
She looks familiar. I thought I've seen this face before.
She was in The Favorite, which wasn't my favorite thing. The favorite wasn't my favorite, but she's also anybody wants to check out her. One of my favorite things that she's done is Broadchurch, which is a British kind of suspense mystery, and it is phenomenal. Like start to finish, it's everybody's. Maybe not everybody as good as this because I love the humor of Fleabag, but it's so well done. But she's in so many. She's been in everything. She won the Oscar.
Oh, nice.
For The Favorite. But yeah, I think that I don't get irritated with it. I think it's hilarious. But they start to. So she'll make a comment. And then Fleabag will return the comment, and that's wonderful too. That back and forth that happens, and then several times you think they're going to completely have it. Like she pushes her, Fleabag pushes her for something awful that she says about her mother and her, and then she comes back and slaps her. And right when she does it, the father comes into the picture. Which would be nice to move into like the family, because what does the father do?
So the father does absolutely nothing. He's basically
he stumbles and babbles.
Yeah, he's basically a schmuck to her, to his new wife or soon to be wife, because they get eventually engaged. They're together, but he also doesn't know how to communicate with his own daughters.
No, he doesn't at all.
And I mean, they address it. All he does is literally get him tickets to feminist talks, and that's pretty much it. But he cares for them. You see that, and he just does not know how to express it.
Yeah, and it's wonderful. It's wonderful to watch this because, and it's the acting is phenomenal.
Yeah, that's phenomenal.
He kills it, and what I love about that character too, and this is also fresh, and I'm sure it wasn't written that way, but it's not that he's stuttering, but he doesn't complete a sentence. Like he can't. He wants to say to his daughter several times, "I love you, and I want the best for you, and I hope you're doing well." But what he actually comes out of his mouth, he's like, "Oh, how are you?" And also, would you like to?
Yeah.
And and he doesn't even finish the sentence because he can't do it. And it's wonderful to watch that kind of. In an entertaining manner.
But that's only, if you've noticed, that's only when it's more than two people in the room, especially with the godmother. But they do have a couple of nice scenes with just Fleabag.
And that is one of the wonderful parts of the show is that arc of their relationship.
Yeah,
it does evolve. Mm-hmm. But I also like it starts to evolve, and you think it's going to go in this direction, and then
It regresses.
Olivia comes into
Yeah.
the stepmother, and then he'll stop like what he's about to say. But he also says, you're correct that like the one-on-one conversations generally not all the time, but he can get out what he's thinking and what he wants to say. And some of the shit that he says to her is awful. Do you recall? Like she comes.
No, which?
Well, she comes to him drunk. She's out one night and she's drunk and she decides, I'm just gonna go to my father and express my love and have this conversation. And he can't do it, and he's worried that the stepmother's gonna hear them talking. And she confesses. This is a wonderful moment. She confesses that she feels like she's a liar, and I don't know if she says to him promiscuous, but she's like, I'm not a good feminist. I'm not kind to people. I'm cruel, and she says all these things, and then the camera is like over the shoulder on him, and he's like, and it's like, well, you get that from your mother, and that is such a like a I don't know. I think it's great writing, but and this is something that Phoebe Waller-Bridges does wonderfully. Is she is not going to give you any kind of generic character or expected solution to any of these characters or any of these issues. It just it takes a twist when you think there's going to be healing or something else is going to happen, and it doesn't. And she pulls it off. It's heart-wrenching and humorous most of the time together.
Yeah.
And part of how you said it, part of how she deals with like the horrors in her life, or the lack of affection and love, and her self-deprecation is through humor. But that pacing, and it's I don't think I could write. I do not think I could write this many humorous moments and this many gut-wrenching moments, back to back, or just going back and forth so many times in one, half an hour episode. It's like it's amazing, and I think it's got to be super difficult, but it's a ride. It is such a cool ride.
Yeah. I think you're right. It does eventually. I think everybody does a good job of pacing in each scene, which elevates either the dramatic moments or the humorous moments. And actually, that the guy who plays Martin, who is her sister's husband, I really like him.
He's awesome.
He is great. He's got great comedic timing. I've seen him in other. I mean, he's in Stranger Things, and that's It's exactly what he does there too. Is just comedic timing, comedic stuff, and he's like
but he's
really good at it.
But he's a completely different character.
I mean, he's a completely different character, but he's the humorous character.
Sure,
he takes on a lot of humorous roles.
Yes. Have you seen him in High Maintenance?
High Maintenance. No.
It's wonderful. That. Yeah, you got to check out High Maintenance. It's really cool. But if you're watching this, and it's Brett Gelman is his name, he plays Martin. So it's Phoebe's
sister's husband.
Fleabag's brother-in-law is Martin, and this is something else that's interesting. I know we're jumping around, but did you notice like what kind of character he is to her?
No.
So think about his character all the time.
I just can't word it.
No, it's okay. But every time you see him, and what he goes through in life, and then think about Fleabag, and every time we see her and what she's doing in life, they're parallel characters.
Yeah, okay.
They're parallel characters. They're not the same in any shape or form. And what's interesting is they're both fuck ups, right?
Yeah.
They're both incapable of kind of loving or figuring it out to make it happen, to be like healthy. Neither one of them are healthy. And what's interesting is he's successful. Like, he's doing fine.
Right.
And he's married to her sister, who is messed up herself, but she's also like successful, as a businesswoman.
Right.
But Fleabag is, failing at just about everything. The cafe is doing horrible. And even that is kind of humorous in itself, but it's so cool that she wrote a parallel character that we kind of hate, but we also have moments where we're like, oh, you get it. But we feel so much more for her character than we do Martin, her brother-in-law. But it's another interesting element of the show that she has a parallel character to her, and then what happens with him, and also their interactions are phenomenal. Should we stay on Martin, or should we go to the family? Go back to the family.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, I think that pretty much kind of exacerbates, at least in the general sense, Martin's character.
But like we're
I don't
not.
know if we want to get into.
We're not. I want to go.
Spoiler stuff.
Well, some of my favorite scenes are when those two interact. So
Same. That's what I was thinking.
Oh,
it's
cool.
either,
so let's talk about them.
Yeah, because his problem is he has the same problem that Fleabag has, and which is not able to understand Claire, her sister, his wife.
Right.
Yeah.
You said it. You heard it. It's happening.
I was doing this. I was even tapping the table.
I wasn't even express without his hands banging the table.
I have to.
Blaise, on the other hand, is calm, cool, and collect, and is near the table, working the audio and the mic, and yet he doesn't touch the table.
Because your hands are busy with the mic and the audio.
Is it? I don't think it is. But anyway, what were your favorite scenes with Martin and Fleabag? Or you were on a point and I yelled at you?
Well, I'd probably say when they're shopping for his sister.
Yes. That's one of my favorite in the whole freaking thing. So just tell the audience what's happening here.
Yeah, so it's this is season 1, maybe halfway through. Claire has a birthday coming up. No, was it a birthday?
Yeah, it's a birthday coming up.
Birthday.
And we already talked a little bit about the scene because she came in and said Asian gangbang when she's looking at Asian gangbang because he's got a camera, he's got his computer open.
Yeah.
And then we find out later that she's wrong in this instance. He's actually looking up gifts for his wife, her sister, and it's real corny when he comes up with it's a golden necklace that says her name, but he's incapable of knowing what his wife would want or what he gets her, and so he walks into her cafe drunk. Go take a walk.
Which is actually hang on, I just want to segue again off of that because he doesn't know what Claire wants, but at the same time, so the audience will be like, "Oh, but you're like he's her husband. How does he not know what she wants?" But then we find out why he doesn't know what she wants is because that also plays into Claire's character, and her kind of flaws and
she's
who
so
she is.
High strung. So her sister is high strung, highly successful, like loaded, but she's incapable of affection. So it couldn't be easy, and that's one of the ways in which, and again, parallel character, because we feel for both of these characters, and we get it. We get that. Jesus, who could find the right gift, for this woman?
Yeah.
Well, most of us could, but or some of us think we could, but it wouldn't be easy.
It wouldn't be easy. Yeah. They go shopping together and they're like picking out a present for her.
Yeah, before we get that, so he shows up at her cafe drunk.
Oh, yeah.
And this is interesting, too. He walks in, and she's taking pictures of, she's taking pictures of her snatch, which tells you a lot about who this character is and what you're going to see. Like how on the crazy end, or maybe some people don't think that's crazy, the crazy end of oversexed that she is. And she's taking pictures of those. She talks about a former boyfriend that asked her to do it all the time.
Yeah.
And we go through this montage of her taking pictures of her snatch. And then he walks in while she's doing it. She's like, whoa. She pulls out. And she's taking pictures to send out to random people to get a date, for this other event coming. So he comes in and he's drunk as shit. And it's hilarious. Like, it's so funny to watch Brett Gelman drunk and he goes to the counter. He's like, oh, these sandwiches are so good. He goes, do you have a water or a piece of bread I can eat? He says Brett, and then they have that back and forth, and then they go to the shop. So she agrees to do it, and they go to the shop. Go take it.
Yeah, and then they're picking out. I guess they're looking at shoes to pick out, and they go, and each style of shoe they were looking at represents the type of person that would wear it, and again a little bit more character development for Fleabag, because she's I used to wear these, or I want to be this person.
I wish I could
this
be
person.
the person that could wear this. Now I wear these. Yeah.
And then she hands him these sneakers that are just pure gold or gold colored, and she was like, "We'll get this because it's completely not even." It's definitely not something she would want, but it's something that would completely catch her off guard.
Well, she says everybody wants to be the person that can wear these shoes because they're this bright gold. It's
they just
you'd have to be a successful hip hop person to pull this off, basically. But her point is, if you buy this, it'll be expressing to her how much you think of her, and it gives her a chance to stop being so anal and you know what I mean? And she can maybe put these shoes on and act. And we do see moments where that character, that's how Claire gets developed, is that there are moments where she does quirky things that are outside of her character, which is really cool. But this is a moment where she's genuinely trying, to help him. And he just can't, make that jump. He's not brave enough to buy those shoes for her. He's still drunk during this segment where they're going through it, and she's trying to convince him, and he's just not here, and he can't envision his wife wearing these shoes.
Yeah. It's funny because she also tells him to just sleep with her, because apparently they haven't been sleeping because he's got a medical condition or something.
Yeah, she tells him to sleep with Claire, not herself.
With Claire. And that would be enough. But yeah, he wants to. I don't know. I think he wants to get her something more meaningful in his eyes than what Fleabag is trying to express.
Well, he's going to her to get something meaningful. He wants to get her something that. Do you know what I mean? But that she knows this will work. He just doesn't trust it. And he's a parallel character. He's also incapable of knowing how to deal with his wife or make this happen. Did I interrupt you?
No.
And then, so in this process of trying on the shoes, and she's kind of rolling her eyes, she sees Boo, Boo is not with us, and the audience will find out why she's not with us. She sees Boo's ex boyfriend at the shoe store, and it just destroys her world. So we do a quick a jump cut, like you said, and it's real quick of Boo with him, and so that really upsets her, and she runs out of the shop, and he's left. Martin's left in there by himself.
Comes out
and
running.
She's out, and he comes out running
in high heels.
In high heel shoes. And what's hilarious, again, parallel character. Did you notice how many times that something will happen, and then she's trying to break away from something, and she'll start running it's a thread in the film. She runs a lot, and so it was so cool to see him. He's running down the street like she would do, in these high heel shoes, and he's like, what about these? And then he realizes that something terrible something
Sure.
had happened. And she kind of tells him, but she doesn't tell him the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, let's get a drink. And he's like, oh, hell yeah, let's get a drink.
Yeah.
And then he runs back, which is hilarious. He runs in these high heel shoes back to the store, which he doesn't have to run back, but he does. Both of these characters, we see them running several times. But this parallel character, we do develop his character because usually with him, the way he's developed is the heart-wrenching moments where we feel for his difficulty. And so many times he's an asshole and she's calling him on it. But then his explanation or his speech about why he is this or he's that makes us feel for the character. I don't know if you felt the same way, but we're not gonna say exactly what does happen with him. Actually, you don't know yourself because you have to see.
I'm only through halfway of season 2.
Yeah.
So I haven't seen the full.
Right.
And yeah. I think wraps it up for Martin. I think.
I mean, we could talk about it because I love the dude. So
yeah, it's great. It's great.
Yeah. So let's talk about Claire and I keep wanting to say Phoebe, but Fleabag. Let's talk about that relationship. That's really interesting too. This is almost like Fleabag and her father are like a parallel characters to Fleabag and her sister. None of those people can properly love or show affection in any manner. And what's cool is we see several times where one of the other sisters going in for a hug and they wind up getting like smacked in the face. Like, what the hell are you doing? Get away from me. Like you can't show affection in a public. Don't try to hug me.
No, she didn't even know what she was trying to do because they just, I guess, have been so distant from each other for a long period of time. We don't know how long, but so much so that they don't even know how to instigate.
Well, their mother passed, and their father certainly wasn't capable of showing them.
Well, we find out it's been 3 years since their mother passed.
So that combination makes those two sisters not able to
I don't know if I would buy it's like in a 3-year period they've become so. You know what I mean? I feel like this has been like an ongoing thing.
Sure.
Maybe they've never been able to clearly. Although they expressed when they were younger, kids and teenagers, they used to be a lot closer, and then I don't know. I guess somewhere they deviated somewhere from that, and then of course, their mother passing was a, kind of like a nail in the coffin,
so to speak,
to their kind of interactions and how to express emotions, towards one another. It is great when you do see the moment. One of my favorite episodes would be the one where they go to the silent retreat, because that's where it just focuses on the two of them and their relationship and how it kind of starts to develop further. They kind of start to open up a little more with one another.
Yeah. The reason I like the silent retreat was because there is in one of the episodes, Fleabag's going to get a loan for the cafe to keep the cafe rolling, and she needs more money to put in and do things, etc. And she goes to this loan officer who somebody in their loan agency has been inappropriately must have touched him. But it wasn't just him. There was I guess other people, but he says, I guess you've seen, and she is super nervous, and in the process is she's getting too hot and she's sweating. And he asks her if she wants some water or something, and then he says, "Well, it's very nice to have a woman come in here because I'm sure you've heard of our issues." And she's like, "Oh yeah," and he goes, "Would you like some water?" Because she's sweating, and she takes off her shirt, thinking that she has a blouse underneath, and she doesn't. So it's just her bra because she's so nervous, and he thinks that she's trying to pull a fast one on him or force him into getting this loan because of their whatever. And so that whole situation ends terribly for her. She doesn't get the loan, and they wind up calling each other, shit. He calls her slut or something like that.
She calls him perv, and he's like,
perv,
slut.
Yeah. And so then when she's at the retreat with her sister, This guy is in a neighboring retreat where all these guys that don't know, that have like done something inappropriate. It's kind of like not an anger management, but like a inappropriate perv management, and they're like screaming all the while these women are meditating and aren't allowed to talk to each other and they have to be silent. You hear in the background these guys screaming, "Slut! Slut! Slut! Slut!" Like they're each taking turns screaming slut while these girls are trying to meditate. But yeah, you were saying this is a moment where we get to see just the two of them together.
Mm-hmm. There was moments where Claire's character kind of starts to get unwound and kind of reveal a more like happy, I guess if you want to call it, happier character. She starts maybe, is it a couple of jokes? For sure there's one part she starts laughing at Fleabag's joke that she makes. But it's just, you get more character development out of the two, and they kind of start to open up with one another. But you're right, that I do actually also really like the scene towards the end of the episode with the dude from the bank, the loan manager, and her that they have, because that was like a real.
It's a lovely moment.
It was, it's real. I don't know how to describe it. It's like where they're both like honest with one another. She actually, I mean, she doesn't say a lot until like the very end, so it's mostly him talking about it.
They basically both apologize to one another, and they're both in a different place.
Yeah.
And so it's a really cool moment. We're not ruining anything by saying it, because when you see it, we won't do.
Well, it allows for her to see that she's not the only one that kind of feels that way.
Right. Absolutely.
So it's nice.
Yeah. So in that, with her sister, and this goes back to what I was saying before, but this is just amazing. The ride that you're on with Fleabag, with breaking the fourth wall, with these back and forth of heart-wrenching, you get pissed off at some of these characters, and then the humor, the back and forth of humor, and then not a ton, but often it happens enough. It's like perfect rhythm, perfect, how do I say this, structure, that we don't ever go too far where we're, pissed off too much, or we're sick of the her fuck ups or doing something wrong. There's always humor placed in the perfect spot, and there's always these makeups, these moments where the characters do learn about themselves and they do change, that you don't get frustrated, you don't get bored, you don't get like, I'm not going to watch any more of this. But the amount of humor mixed with the amount of either horrible moments or gut wrenching, and then also heart wrenching, it's just amazing, that ride in itself, and how she's able to jump back and forth in these moments. First, it goes back to the writing, and then second, clearly these are, I didn't have any issues with it. Was there any bad acting in this? This is like a 10 out of 10 acting in my opinion, but you might have something different.
No. I didn't have... Hang on, I'm thinking about the character. No. And I think it's not... I think these are actors that are really good at timing. And I think that's what helps. Like, if you nail the timing of the scene and the dialogue, you don't have to be like... You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It's not the most...
No, absolutely. That's part of acting.
Yeah.
Which I know, I'm not... But it is. Like, if they didn't have impeccable timing, none of this would work. It would all fall apart. No. Like, how they wait to deliver, how they deliver, how much... Just what you're saying. It's just perfection. And any actor that's like wants to improve their craft should watch this just to see when and how they deliver, the pacing, the skips of beats. Mm-hmm. Sometimes talking over one another. It doesn't happen too often. Although I was watching a lot of stuff that Phoebe Waller interviews with her, and she encouraged the other actors were talking about how she would encourage them to talk over one another, which is something I love. And we had mentioned that in The Public Enemy. The Patty character would not wait for people to deliver their lines. He just went right in, and so she like encouraged them to do that. But these actors are like, they're just perfect. They're phenomenal. But getting into that, and this is something that I keep asking you, I'm going to keep asking you, what performance did you see that you were like, wow, I need to like put that in my repertoire? Or did you learn did any like moment that you watched, because these actors are just fucking incredible.
Yeah,
they're off the chart. Were you like, wow, I gotta like take note of this, and maybe you rewound it a couple times or something?
Yeah, pretty much the entirety of Martin's character. Was it the actor's name again? Brett Gilman, you said?
Brett Gilman, yeah.
Brett Gilman. That's in terms of, again, comedic timing, which is you have to be like, whatever the pace is. But then also I think her father,
yes,
because he is the
dude. You
totally have to be so good. Like you said, because like, you know, trying to what he's doing is like trying to get words out, but also make it sound like a natural conversation type of deal. So you have to, again,
and
have it nailed down. And he does.
He had the more difficult, like role, because he can't even finish the sentence, and you have to make that believable, and yet he pulls it off every time. So like same as you, man. Every time Brett was on, or the father, I found myself like wanting to rewind, or sometimes I did rewind. Probably Brett Gelman more because it's just humorous, you know what I mean? But also like he's an asshole, he's hilarious, and he's also not a complete, terrible dude, right?
Yeah.
But there was something about the humor that made it, you wanted to see it again.
Yeah.
But the father, his delivery and the way they did it was just. It was killer.
Especially episode 1 of season 2, at the dinner, at the restaurant.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
And that's with everybody then.
Yeah.
Then because you have really quick the godmother and the father talking about, whatever to the priest, but then you have Martin and Claire chiming in. They're all kind of just like, trying to make small talk, but everybody's going on top of each other. Yeah. And again, it comes down to pacing and nailing the line. And it could have also been maybe a little bit of the shots of the back and forth. Maybe that's me.
It is. No, it absolutely is. I also saw the director talking about this, and he was talking about he's a big fan of the 2-shot. Mm-hmm. And so the way he saw it is he separated it with the 2-shot. It would be Olivia and the father and the future mother-in-law. It would be Claire and Martin. And Phoebe is like a 1-shot. So he together with Phoebe Waller-Bridges, she had her hands on every single part of this film. She was right next to the director. At times, she did the storyboarding, and she made sure that everybody understood it. She did the writing. They changed the writing oftentimes right before, which I'll talk a little bit about. And then in the editing room, she went every time they edited, she was in the editing room. So you would think that that much might be too much control and might like cause problems, but apparently it didn't cause any problems. But they worked that out, that it was 2 shots, so 2 characters in the shot, and then whenever we saw her, she was kind of by herself. So she is the one at the table that's by herself, other than the priest, which is kind of interesting that they develop a relationship as well.